as an album that it tries to remember everything that's been done throughout a work and bring it back. It tries to learn the horn as you go, and each track tries to do that, sort of starting from a different starting place.
This is the Making Noise podcast.
Well, let's talk about your album that you just released.
Sure.
Because this conversation is making me think a lot about that. But you have your album 2000 Miles, which is fucking sick.
Thanks, Adam.
Absolutely. The opening track, what's the other one? Angel Face, is that one?
Yeah, Angel Face is the no mouthpiece track.
That, okay. I was gonna ask about that. And then the last one, I can't remember. It's like 18 minutes long, right?
Yeah, New Moon.
New Moon. Oh my God. Those pieces of mine, I was like, after I heard that, I was like, yep, that's crazy. I'm gonna I want to talk about that one.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, this whole conversation about like layering techniques and stuff like that, like in that album, on a lot of the tracks at least, but like it seems like you're doing just that, is like taking certain sounds and manipulating it in certain ways. Am I accurate in saying that? Like, could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, yeah. It's sort of, I mean, the idea is to create narrative pieces out of these extended techniques, right? Which, at least in my early years playing, were used in, I wouldn't say a novel way, but were used as these moments of stepping outside of a realm. Whereas in 2000 Miles, they are central to that realm. They are the house, right? Like it's built on these sounds, and these sounds are, I mean, justifiably the saxophone. They aren't twisting the saxophone to play in a different way than it should. They are the saxophone, and so if I exit at one point and play a very beautiful melody, that becomes sort of the outside extended vocab of any of these pieces. And I felt like it's not only my first instinct when I'm playing. It's just because it's a sound world. A lot of these techniques just open up to sound worlds that I feel I have a lot of agency within, and a lot of I find new things in them all the time because they aren't necessarily as stable as the tuned notes on the saxophone as we've learned them growing up or approaching the instrument to begin with. So for me, it also includes that whole world of experimentalism. I like, okay, if I do this double trill on this key, I get microtone, and I'm also getting this kind of overtone in a strange way that I haven't heard before, but let's dig into it a little bit more. So as an album that it tries to remember everything that's been done throughout a work and bring it back. It tries to learn the horn as you go, and each track tries to do that, sort of starting from a different starting place, right? So the very first track, New Moon, plays a lot with microtonality, and I think it starts on like an F quarter flat, or no, that's the second. Sorry, not New Moon, that's Home, which there are two Home tracks. There's Home 1 and Home 2, and both of them play on, like, one's on like an A quarter flat, the other's on an F quarter flat or something. Anyway, I start at those points and just build and kind of move up microtonally. So it has this sense of like pitch resolving too, not quite in a leading tone kind of way, but in a way that it fits within the narrative that's been created thus far. So that those both work similarly, and then have their excursions, have their sort of formal B sections, and then return home. And so that's one example. Angel Face is one, like I said, with our mouthpiece, where you set the tone immediately. This is the vocabulary of this piece, and where it departs and returns to it, take the listener in a different direction. And it's easy to do that on an audio album where you're not watching a saxophonist. A lot of times when you're watching a player, you're thinking of all the things they're doing, as opposed to just kind of hearing the sounds and imagining the sounds, as themselves and part of a statement, right? So I mean, it could be, Angel Face could be coming from any possible vessel, right? It's more concentrated on what the sound is doing and what the message is that's being put across how it's communicating, as opposed to it being like, check out the air sounds I can make on the saxophone, right?
Yeah.
And then Township Road 494 is the sort of exploration into harmonics and playing with very, very unstable harmonics at the top of sort of that top of the harmonic structure that I'm able to get on the saxophone, on the tenor sax. So I'm fingering very, very low fingerings, but playing within that very, very fragile space. And that there not only has a sort of constant quality of being part of the spectrum that relates to that sort of low pedal that keeps coming in, but also those higher partials, they have their, like I said, their fragility, which creates this sort of experimental and exciting narrative. Like, will it be able to resolve to that? Is she able to get that note that feels like it's the right note to happen right now? Is that going to squeak through? And so I liked playing in that space too, which is kind of antithetical to the space, that a lot of the instrumental repertoire I learned growing up, where it's like, you learn to execute this and then you execute it 100% of the time if you can, and that's the goal. This is the opposite of that. It's exploring in a space, and sometimes the most interesting moments are when the note is not achieved, or it's barely achieved, or it contains that sort of humanism, that fragility, and so that's more or less the aesthetic of the record. It's playing with a lot of different things on a lot of different levels, but mostly it's what I was interested in playing at that time.